I got to meet some of my classmates in particular, some of whom really were not my classmates, but I didn't know it at the time. Two of them were Florida Highway Patrol people. They had been assigned to assure my safety.
When I see the things that are happening now, if I was younger, I would have been in Minnesota. I'd have been in Portland.
2020 offered a sobering reminder that no matter how much progress it seems America has made, there is still more work to be done. We are highlighting the stories of Black civil rights pioneers who have been doing that work for decades. Starting with the man who forged a new path in the 1950s by becoming the University of Florida's first Black student.
On September 15th, 1958, when I went to the University of Florida, I didn't know what to expect.
This grainy footage shows a nervous Mr. Stark on campus receiving his registration packet, a row separating him from his white classmates on their first day.
I got to meet some of my classmates in particular, some of whom really were not my classmates, but I didn't know it at the time. Two of them were Florida Highway Patrol people. They had been assigned to assure my safety because they didn't know what to expect either, except that my name did come up once in a while in Klan meeting.
Take me back to the civil rights movement, and for you, what was your activity involved with it, and what do you remember? Take us back to Dr. King and what you thought of him.
Well, he gave my graduation speech at Morehouse, and I knew his brother from high school. I knew a few of the people that he knew. So naturally, I was impressed with what he was doing. It was a kind of a time, I suppose, that instituted a great deal of change, maybe more understanding later, more appreciation for the impact of segregation on people.
No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace!
When you see the marches that take place now in response to George Floyd's death or other incidents that have happened across the country, how do you compare what's going on now versus what happened back then?
Well, back then, my focus was primarily on what was going on at the University of Florida and what was going on at other schools in the South. Although people can't blame themselves for what happened 400 years ago, there's still a legacy, and much of those problems still need attention.
You went to Morehouse, you went to the Air Force, you went to the University of Florida Law, you worked on Wall Street. You had some huge key roles in a time where our country was, one of the most divided it's ever been. Was it easy for you?
Well, I wouldn't say that it was easy by any means, because finding the quality of employment that I was looking for was, in fact, difficult. It took a lot of time to get on the right track. When I was growing up, there were limits on where you could go, what you could do. Today, they're more subtle.
As for the advice he wants to give to younger generations,
do the best that you're capable of doing, and come out and be involved in the community, work for causes that you identify with, accomplish as much as you can, learn as much as you can, and keep learning new things all your life.
In our next story, a civil rights trailblazer reflects on the experiences that led her to join the Black Workers Coalition and begin rallying for human rights.
I tell everybody, racism is not born in a person. Racism is taught.
Miss Maddie Jones told me she learned that lesson years after moving from Memphis, Tennessee to Louisville, Kentucky. She was in 2nd grade.
Believe it or not, I'd walk past maybe 2, 3 white schools, all white schools. Never thought nothing about that. I was joyous, overjoyed to get to Madison Junior High and Central High. Those were our schools, our friends was there.
She graduated as Louisville Municipal College closed and integration took effect.
That was the only college that African Americans could go to here at home.
She chose Indiana University, about 100 miles north. While there, she says penmanship, it almost landed her an on-campus job. Then the employer saw her in person.
I didn't think anything about him looking strange, but I knew he got quite uneasy. And then when he was able to, through his choked up voice, to say this to me, that's when it really hit me. That's when it created not love, not being upset, but it changed me into really being mad.
Jones joined the Black Workers Coalition. Over the years, she's planned boycotts and rallied for human rights all across the country and here at home. What was the Breonna Taylor investigation and more like for you?
It was the same old soup warmed over. When I heard of the Breonna case, my mind said to me that we have not been on the job. We haven't did what we're supposed to have done. Because we're in the 60s and we came through the human rights movement, we got satisfied with some crumbs. And we could move out into the suburbs. And we forgot from whence we came. And this little creature began to creep back in a more dignified, sophisticated way.
Maddie Jones turned 87 in 2020, 15 days after Louisville Metro Police killed Breonna Taylor in a controversial midnight raid. Jones attended some of those local protests, witnessing a modern-day movement layered with hope and some confusion.
We didn't have leadership. You see, during the 60s, we were trained. Before we got into the streets or anywhere, we went to a place in Newmarket, Tennessee, and Dr. Martin Luther King's aides and men that worked, and some women, they trained us how to be resistance to violence. And they explained to us and taught us what was going to happen. We didn't go out there blindsided, thinking everything was going to be all right. See, none of this happened during this last protest that we had. But I applaud those young folk for having the goodwill and the mind and the heart to step up and said, enough is enough.
Finally, another longtime activist further explores the legacy of the civil rights movement and the ways it informs the fight for Black lives today.
Tell us about what it was like growing up in the 50s versus what a lot of people are seeing today.
When I grew up in that era, just being able to go to different places, we couldn't go to skating rinks. Matter of fact, when we wanted to go to a skating rink, the man set it on fire so that we couldn't skate there. We wanted to go to swimming pools. The swimming pools were segregated, and for the most part, we could not go to swimming pools. And so we had to integrate the skating rink and integrate the swimming pools. We were children, and it was not fair to deny.
Why do you think people treated people who look like you and I in such a manner?
They're afraid. They're afraid. They were afraid then, and they're afraid now. When we were brought to this country in bonds, they knew they were wrong. They treated us worse than they treated their animals. They noticed when they brought people from Africa, the superiority of them. They said, don't teach them how to read. Don't let them learn anything. But we were learning how to read just by watching somebody else read.
I have a dream.
What was it like for you, all of these leaders just coming out of the woodworks for the first time, standing up on a national stage and addressing systemic racism and the issues happening in our community?
It was thrilling to me to see someone that looked like me, to be able to stand up on a stage and to promote other people, to let people know that we are a group of intelligent beings. We're just not made up of dirt and clay.
One of the big topics that everyone has spent the last year on has been the Black Lives Matter movement, resulting from the unarmed killing of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery. What are your thoughts on that?
When I see the things that are happening now and how we are treated, and I'm gonna tell you, I told somebody the other week, if I was younger, I would have been in Minnesota. I'd have been in Portland. I'd have been in Louisville, Kentucky.
Black Lives Matter!
Across this world. It wasn't just in the United States. Blacks, whites, Latinos, Asians, marching together, saying this is wrong. We need to do something about it. Enough is enough.
What do we do to get to that place where it's finally equal across the board?
As long as we have systemic racism in different aspects of our society, we have racism in education, medicine, police, and unless and until we get some reforms in economic, social, and judicial justice, it's going to continue to be a problem.
We hope these stories serve as a reminder of the importance of those who paved the way for civil rights. For more stories like this, click the subscribe button.